Sober Fitness presents Reorienting Our Approach. A common refrain in Sober Fitness is that you can do a lot with not very much. What this basically means is that you don't need much to get started, but more than that, it's an exercise in thinking about things differently, reorienting your approach. Everyone says fitness is mental, but rarely does anyone do anything about it. We spend a lot of time trying to train our bodies, but relatively less time trying to train our minds. It's ironic because in the feedback loop of body and mind, the way we train our minds is by training our bodies. But if we are not aware of this while we engage in physical activity, we may very well be training our minds in the wrong way because we are not focusing on leveraging positive feedback at a critical stage in our physical evolution. We may very well be training ourselves to hate the process, and needless to say, that is not a recipe for a sustained commitment over time. When it comes to actual training, there's a lot of talk about technique and repetition, but rarely any talk about how to develop the right mindsets that will enable us to achieve and sustain such technique and repetition. We develop our minds and cultivate the mindsets we will need by logging mental reps while we put in our physical reps. For each physical rep, there is a corresponding mental rep. We must be aware of what's going on in our heads while we train our bodies. We can start reorienting our approach with this baseline identifier. Are we training ourselves to love or hate the process? Once we are sure we are not building negative feedback through our action, we can begin to build a better relationship with fitness and start logging good mental reps that will become the code our fitness mindset will be written in and our mental program will ultimately be built on. What we can do with Sober Fitness is give people the tools through fitness sponsorship to discover and outline their own mental programs. Focusing on understanding what goes on upstairs in our minds while we train is a great place to start. We need a good mental program when the load increases, and in certain situations, we need to deploy specific mindsets to be successful. If we haven't taken time to cultivate these mindsets, we will fail hard. In Sober Fitness, we cultivate these mindsets by investing in a long-term strategy in the early days of our physical evolution. We don't chase short-term gains. If we achieve them, those kinds of gains are always transitory because we have not built the necessary mental infrastructure required to sustain them long term. Moreover, they will have been achieved through sheer will. And if we know one thing about willpower, it's unsustainable. We can't force ourselves to do anything against our will indefinitely. We don't want our relationship with fitness to be based in resentment, wherein we never get the results we want. It's always a struggle. No matter what we do, it's never enough. This is a fitness famine. The best thing we can do to reorient our approach when we are starting out is hit the trail by ourselves. Away from fear of failure or fear of looking foolish, we can spend time walking, hiking, running at a level we are comfortable with. We will learn how to play those little games with ourselves and how to break large things down in our minds and how to master a whole repertoire of mental gymnastics and tricks that used to work against us, we can start using to our advantage. This is in stark contrast to throwing ourselves to the wolves, putting ourselves under those bright fluorescent lights of the gym before we are ready, and all the negative mental association that comes with feeling like an idiot. By adopting this strategy, we can experiment and discover what works for us and what doesn't. We can build ritual around a routine that we look forward to and is unique and personal to our individual selves. Before we know it, we will have developed ourselves mentally and physically. We will have logged some serious mental reps and physically trimmed some of the fat and given ourselves a good foundation to build on moving forward. When it is time to enter the gym and we simply just can't find enough weight to move around at home, we will belong. We will not feel so fish out of water because we will have spent time learning about physical activity and we will have cultivated mindsets that will help us with a greater challenge. This is called natural progression, and it's what we should practice and use for the basis of the development of our mental and physical programs. We can go pretty tinfoil hat when we notice that no one in mainstream fitness makes any effort to mentally equip people so that they might be free to go and achieve true gains on their own. I mean, this would mean no return customers for the plethora of coaches, dietitians, and influencers who are out there. It's almost as if the traditional fitness model relies on us not figuring it out for ourselves. But the reality is explaining the nuances of a mental program and how you can actually download unbelievably powerful and resilient mindsets and practice them and actually make them work for you isn't economical, or at least practical, working on a person-by-person basis. I mean, if it wasn't for Sober Fitness. We discovered how we can do all this by simply applying the principles of recovery and investing in our own personal program in the early days and building a strong mental program. We can take inventory of what's going on upstairs, and we can give back through fitness sponsorship, and we can rely on something more powerful than sheer will. The key is to reorient our approach. We can continue to do this, and as they say, we will be amazed before we are halfway through, and we will achieve what we should ultimately be orienting ourselves towards. And what is the ultimate goal? The one way to achieve a sustained commitment over time and true gains, a fitness identity.